Well, hello everyone. Wasn't expecting to go live, but we have had a huge, humongous, seismic announcement. Granit Xhaka is staying at Sunderland. Yes, we have had that now confirmed through Sky Sports News, through loads of different journalists, that Granit Xhaka is committing himself to Sunderland. And I didn't see this coming. Didn't think it was going to happen. And yeah, let's go through it all. Obviously, get in the comment section. This is an impromptu live. We weren't expecting to go live today. I was already packed down for the week, and I've quickly packed back up and got myself ready for this. So let's go through. Let's pop on the screen. Let's pop on the screen where we are right now with all this. So this is Sky Sports and everything on here. So yes, this is Sky Sports. It's not me saying this. This is what's on Sky Sports. So latest from Sky Sports News: Keith Downey and Dharma Sheth. We can exclusively reveal that Granit Xhaka will be staying at Sunderland. The Sunderland captain was wanted by Chelsea, who had a bid rejected for the midfielder, but the Blackcats have made it clear Xhaka was never for sale. Xhaka was initially attracted by the prospect of reuniting with Xabi Alonso, having enjoyed a successful spell under him at Bayer Leverkusen, and was therefore open to exploring the opportunity. However, following discussions with the club, Xhaka has reaffirmed his commitment to Sunderland and now wishes to remain on Wearside. The opportunity to lead Sunderland in European competition next season, together with the club's long-term ambition and trajectory, were decisive factors in his decision. Xhaka's strong relationship with Sunderland supporters and his connection with the club have also played an important role in his desire to continue his journey at the Stadium of Light. Sunderland consider Xhaka a key figure both on and off the field and look forward to him playing an important role in the club's upcoming campaign. So this is where we're at with it. Let us know in the comments where yous are at with this, because yeah, I mean, Connor lad, we are massive. Hello Lexi, how are we doing today? Yes, we are live for the second time today. What am I missing just in the door? Well, what you are missing is that Sunderland are keeping their captain. John Parr has some making up to do. We'll talk about all that, what has to happen from now on. Black Cat X, don't bullshit me, Connor, this best be real. Grumple Stiltskin, are you shitting me? Well, apparently not. Get in, you beauty, John Parr. Get in, you beautiful man. I presume that's Xhaka and not me. Brilliant news. Wanted this from Simon. David Scott in there with the great. Is it April Fool's, Michael? I don't think so. I checked the calendar this morning. It's definitely July. Chelsea can stick it up their arse. There we are. David Scott says, understandable, but so pleased he is staying. Charles Hunter, afternoon, Bonnie lad. Hope he doesn't read any of my previous comments. Yeah, I'm glad that I stayed pretty level-headed all throughout this one. Mash Mariner says, I kind of don't want him to stay. He lies through his teeth at the end of the season. I don't want that in my club. I mean, that is what he's got to make up with. John McKinney says, I feel more relieved. Jason Beatty, reckon your idea of giving a new deal with that guaranteed extra year will happen now, Connor, to bust bridges up built. Yeah, we'll talk about all that. All the sausages called him a pure rat. Well, that's social media. It goes on. Happy he's staying. We still need to find a replacement. It doesn't change the fact that he wanted to leave. And yeah, there's loads of comments in here. But fundamentally, I think that we have to look at this as hugely positive news for Sunderland. And while there is a lot of work to do for Granit Xhaka, I have outlined previously where I think this will come. And Yorkshire Mackham, where is this news coming from? Well, we're here on Sky Sports News, but there's a lot of journalists saying it online. So yeah, it's coming from all over the place. But I think that the relationship is fixable. I think you can already see in Xhaka what he's fed. What will have happened is, I would imagine after Switzerland's game last night, Xhaka probably had talks with the club today. He probably also was well aware that Chelsea weren't meeting the asking price on him, and he probably felt undervalued, to be fair, by Chelsea because of that. And he probably had a meeting with the club today and said, look, you're not leaving unless it's this sort of price. And there we are, and they've come to the decision that he'll stay. And fundamentally, it's a shame that the way it all played out. And look, it damages the reputation that Xhaka has at the football club. I think there's absolutely no denying that. He has to rebuild those bridges with the fans. But I think that we've got to look at this through a pragmatic lens. Fundamentally, Sunderland are a far better team with Granit Xhaka there. Fundamentally, Sunderland have fought off Chelsea, who came in like piranhas to buy our most important player. They came in there and they tried to bully us into selling him, and Sunderland stood firm on it. And I think that even if you are disappointed with the way that it's played out, fundamentally, Sunderland have won this battle with Chelsea. They've won this war, and we have to say well done to the ownership, well done to the director of football, well done to the manager and all those people that are, that have got round to this decision, because we could have easily been bullied by Chelsea. We could have been. I think fundamentally, the fact that we're sitting here at the start of July before pre-season already starts, and it looks like we're getting, it looks like we've got this commitment from Granit Xhaka, this stuff will be coming from his side, then, we've got to accept this. And look, I can see people in here, keeping a player that doesn't want to be there is bad. But the fact is that we don't know that to be true now. I think Granit Xhaka's side, look, they were pushing for this move. Absolutely no denying that they were. But the fact is that this has all happened over the space of about a week. And here we are. Here we are now. And he's come out with a statement. He's reaffirmed his commitment to the football club. And so we have to, as a fan base, it makes sense. Let's back this guy. He's our most important player. He's the most important cog in this team. He's done so well for us, and we have to remember all of that before we start questioning him, because he is still the captain. And look, I think what we need to see is when he gets back in for pre-season, I think it would be important for him to clear the air on all this. I think it would be important for him to do an interview with the club, maybe even with the media, and talk through what had happened in the summer. Talk through what is going on, what has happened, and all that sort of stuff, because I think the fan base deserves that sort of clarity. We were all there on the final day of the season. We all saw what he said. So the fact is that he let all this information leak out there because he was trying to push for this Chelsea move. And, we have to get an answer to that. And I think that we can't get an answer to that. I've always reaffirmed that, in my view, this relationship would be able to be brought back. I know some people wouldn't be happy with this. I've seen some people already not happy with this, but I think that the clear and obvious way to get this going is you get Granit Xhaka signed up to a new deal. You give him the extra year on that contract. He already has an optional extension, but you give him the extra year on that contract. You get him to do an interview. You get him to talk about how, yes, he was tempted by Chelsea. He was tempted by Xabi Alonso. He was tempted by all of that. However, they did not want him as much as Sunderland, and Sunderland fought to keep him there, and he decided that he wanted to stay at Sunderland. That is how the club have got to play this. And look, some people won't accept it. Some people won't be happy with it until the season starts and you start seeing Granit Xhaka do what Granit Xhaka does, which is basically be an elite footballer. And that is fundamentally it. He was very difficult for us to replace because of his, the fact that he was the age profile, what Chelsea were going to pay. How do you find a player of his sort of level when you are a team like Sunderland? It's very, very difficult. That's why it was so amazing that the club were able to sign him. But I think this is ultimately very, very, very positive news. And I know that some people won't necessarily be happy with it. Some people will be, maybe a little bit fuming about it because, he said that he was looking for a move, and we know all that. But I think we have to look at this as fundamentally Sunderland have won a transfer battle here. Sunderland have won a war on this one. They've beaten Chelsea for the third time in 12 months. They've beaten Chelsea. And I think we've got to take a lot of pride in that. And we've got to take a lot of credit into what the club have done. And, Davey says in here, it would be self-harm to boo Xhaka, but some undoubtedly will. And I don't think people will. I think fundamentally people will see him back in there. And what will happen is once, look, Xhaka will address this. Once it's addressed and they're talking about this, Xhaka's talking about this with club media or whatever, we'll all move on from it because it'll be done in the correct way. And I'm just glad that we've got that decision over the line. So let's see what you guys are saying in the comments. This should bode well for further transfers, and absolutely. And I think as well, this was the first time Sunderland were potentially selling a big player in the transfer market. Obviously, Mayenda's going. And me and James did a video literally about an hour ago talking about Eliza Mayenda. And we talked about Granit Xhaka in there, so we'll have to edit all that out. But I think it's a savable video. But we did all that. So, yes, it will, because people want to sign for Sunderland because Granit Xhaka's there and he's leading it. And I think the important thing is that people can talk about the damage that it has done. But the fact is that this deal has not dragged on too long for it to have caused a massive problem. We haven't had Xhaka publicly. Yes, we've had it through Fabrizio Romano and people like that. But again, you don't know how much of that comes from the Chelsea side of things. Yes, he could have denied it, but we don't know what's coming from what. So we've had things come through from Fabrizio Romano and stuff. But it's before we're back to pre-season. We haven't had the nuclear option hit. I talked a lot, about the fact that he didn't say when he was interviewed yesterday after the Switzerland game, he could easily have went for the nuclear option and said he was desperate for the move to Chelsea. And fundamentally, he could have dug his heels in for a month. He could have dug his heels in until he got the move, and he's not doing that. He's staying. It's fed through the press. He's staying. We haven't obviously heard a direct statement from him, but I think you can pretty much, bet your bottom dollar that it is the case that he's staying at Sunderland. So, there we go. What a story. What a story it's been. What a saga it's been for the last week. Derek says, time to laugh at Chelsea fans. Poor Chelsea fans. The fact of the matter is most of them smart Chelsea fans have said, that they thought it was undermining. And yeah, some of them were idiots, but some of them weren't. Sorry, I had loads of text there, and I just wondered if any of it was particular news, but it wasn't. Britain in a Day says, great news. I feel like a weight has been lifted. I agree. Cloud9 for all this. Gwen Hartley says, get in over the effing moon. Paul Crompton, he's also over the moon. Maybe you saw each other over that moon. Over the moon with that news. Let's get some players in and push on. Glad no one on SAFC Twitter had a meltdown. Yeah, I'm sure plenty of people did. Swansea922 says, great start of the weekend. Kev, it's you and Xhaka. Oh, very good. Thank you. I appreciate that because you said that was a beautiful man. So there we are. I'll take that. Normally only the wife says that. All these neutrals and Chelsea fans assuming it was a done deal. I mean, we saw that a lot. I saw that Chelsea guy who was on TalkSport all the time. Can't remember his name. There was a Chelsea guy on TalkSport anyway, and he had a video come up the other day, and he was like, oh, it's getting done for 13 million. And there we are. We've dug our heels in. John Paul says, I'm not apologising. I've said some pretty hurtful stuff on Twitter. He's dead. Yeah, I'm sure he's not read it anyway, John. You'll be fine. Yeah. He'll sign a new deal now. He has to, right? I mean, you want to get that sort of commitment. But Merton, he says, screw giving him a new contract. You don't reward behaviour like that. Bill Paxton says, is this statement real? Well, looks like it's the case. It looks like it's real. We're getting it from local press. Phil Smith's tweeted about it. We've got Keith Downey putting stuff on about it. We've had journalists from Germany who are breaking the story initially putting stuff on about it. And yeah, it is happening. Granit Xhaka is staying at Sunderland. You have seen that correctly, Bill. Lexi, very happy that he's staying, and we keep building on. June, thank F for that. Very positive news. Man run good, let's sell him to Spurs for 50 million. No, let's keep him. He's our player. We can't afford to get rid of Granit Xhaka. That's why we love him. John McKinney says he has 48,000 fans singing his name at his speech. You can't buy love, you earn it, and he needs to apologise to us. And yeah, I would agree with that. I think that is fundamentally the whole thing. Coach PJG, it's a good thing assuming it's all real. Maybe he waits until January next summer to force it, especially if Chelsea find themselves more desperate. Fair play to the club for holding ground. And look, I don't think it will. At his age, I think that he probably saw this Chelsea move as his last chance to win, top honours. I mean, they're not even in the Champions League, but to potentially win the Premier League. I presume that that's what it was, going with Xabi Alonso and trying to do that. But I think that now he's staying this summer, he's going to stay long term. What on earth this means for Chelsea, by the way? I mean, do we even care about talking from the Chelsea side of things? I don't know. But I think it's worth a mention. This is what Xabi Alonso asked for when he took the job. He wanted Granit Xhaka to lead this team when he took charge. And he hasn't got it. They haven't pulled through with it. They didn't want to pay the money for it. What on earth does that say about his reign at Chelsea and where that football club is right now? I think that they are up creek without a paddle. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's massive ramifications from this because they have been desperate. Xabi Alonso has been desperate to bring him in, and that football club, that football club is done him wrong. There's another post in here. We'll share this on the screen that I've seen from I think it's an Italian journalist. We'll remove this comment as well. Granit Xhaka has never been considered available for transfer, and following discussions has reaffirmed his commitment to Sunderland AFC. Xhaka had explored the idea of reuniting with Xabi Alonso, but he's now fully committed to leading Sunderland in Europe. And I think that's what we as fans have to take from this. We could very easily, very, very easily, have, we could very easily turn on Xhaka, but it's not in our interest to do so. We need to back him. We need to back the club. We're in Europe next season, and I think this sort of transfer saga had taken away some of the shine from that. I think somebody did say that to me, something about the shine being taken away, and they compared it to somebody else. I can't remember who it was, but anyway, it was like when we saw Job kind of thing. It takes some of the shine away from the achievement, and I think that I was sort of looking at this and thinking, oh, right, what's going to happen with this Granit Xhaka thing? And is losing Granit Xhaka going to be, sort of a house of cards sort of situation, because he's been so imperative to us? And I think we've got to remember that fundamentally, he wants to stay at Sunderland. You can talk about the fact that he wanted to go to Chelsea, right? We haven't actually heard that from Xhaka. We've heard that from representation, and that's why it's happened. That's why we've seen it on with Fabrizio Romano and whatnot. But the fact is that now he's committing in the same way. So we have to embrace that. He wants to lead Sunderland into Europe. Let's take what's been said now, from him and stand by that. And I think he will come out and he will address it all. And that's the most important thing. It's how it's addressed, how we go on from this, how it's addressed with the fans, with the media. That is what's important right now. MJ, Eb, yeah, this should be a new song. They tried to take Granit Xhaka, but Kirill said no. They offered 8 mil, but that's not a Kirill. He said no. There we are, a little bit of a play with Amy Winehouse, isn't it, that one? Keith Downey just confirmed it's true. Yeah, he's on the Sky Sports story that we saw initially. Oh, and there's Sunderland tweeting about Legends Way. But yeah, there's the Keith Downey tweet, if people want to see that. So, breaking: Granit Xhaka has turned down a move to Chelsea to remain at Sunderland. This is the media spin, though. Granit Xhaka is now turning down the move to Chelsea. It's not that, you've got to always look at these things. This is how this will be spanned, though. Whether it's true or not, it's going to be about how Granit Xhaka turned it down. He wants to remain at Sunderland. And that is going to be the way that Sunderland and Granit Xhaka have to spin this story. The story now has to be, I was approached by Chelsea. I've got massive respect for Chelsea and Xabi Alonso. I spoke to them. They put it together an interesting proposition. But once I spoke again with Sunderland, once I heard what the plans were, once I, spoke to the manager and how much they wanted to keep me, I had to stay. And I couldn't make the decision to go. And yeah, let's... Whew. And again, he's talking about the relationship with the fans in there as well. That's a line that's been fed out. Let's be honest. It's a line that's been fed out. But it serves us all. It serves all of our interests as Sunderland fans to buy into this, because we need to maintain that togetherness that we've had as a football club. Whether or not you think it's absolute bollocks or not that Granit Xhaka stayed because of his relationship with the fans, it is in our best interests to believe it as football fans, because it serves no purpose for us to turn. So, yeah, there we go. And there is hundreds of comments in here, which is brilliant. Can someone check on Fabrizio to make sure he's okay? Yeah, he's not said anything about that. Keith Downey in Sky Sports. It's actually refreshing to see this in modern day football. Well done, Sunderland and Xhaka. Yeah, we bullied Chelsea on this one. I'm waiting to see all these Chelsea people that are in my comments all the time, because they've been telling me that I was an idiot. An absolute idiot. And James Copley's asking for a Snap DP. That is a Disco Pants podcast. So I'm going to send him a link and see if he wants to join us, and we can very briefly talk about this. So if you bear with me a moment, this is behind the scenes. Behind the scenes stuff. There we are. I've sent him a link. So hopefully he will join us and we can talk about this. Yeah. So there we are. So people, we're all in the comments. And I am loving all the comments. I've read them all. I'm not necessarily sharing them all on screen. Is Big James coming? Yes, I think he is. He's seen the link. So hopefully we'll be getting joined by James and we can turn this live stream into a Disco Pants. Jason B, I wonder if this will jumpstart our transfer business. And yeah, I think that this is an important thing. That this has got the chance to be a really big week for Sunderland. If we can get this bit done, which we've done there, and if we can sign a few players, it's got a chance to be a really, really, really big week for Sunderland this week. You know, if we can get a couple of players in, the feel-good factor could be there. And while people, again, there's going to be a lot of sections of the fan base, that aren't, you know, feeling the Xhaka thing, but I think most of us are of the opinion that this is very, very good news for Sunderland. I didn't see it happening. I think James is coming on, though he's not here yet. Do you think MLF 994? We talked about this morning, didn't we, on Transfer Talk? The Real Madrid statement on Enzo Fernandez. It is possible that is related to that. There is James Copley, the beautiful man that he is. How we doing? Oh, it looks like you're not talking through your microphone, mate. This is the difficulties of being live as you join. No, still struggling. No, still can't hear you, mate. Unless people can. Can people hear? I can't hear you. Oh, he's left. There we are. He'll be coming back on. Yeah, what were we talking about before James got on here? Oh, the Madrid statement. Yeah, so Enzo Fernandez, he was meant to be going to Real Madrid. That deal fell through. Real Madrid put a statement out. It is possible that because of that, Chelsea changed their stance on this. But again, I think it's in our best interest to believe the positive story. Because it serves a very strong purpose for us to believe the positive story as a fan base. James is back.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, James. You are back. There you are.
I don't know what happened. The mic was plugged in. It just didn't work.
Well, I've been blabbering for 21 minutes. So if you want to talk to me about this story from your side of things, what's your reaction to this amazing bombshell news?
I'm actually really, really, really shocked by this. I thought this transfer was going to be drawn out for a lot longer. I am shocked that Granit Xhaka is staying at Sunderland. I genuinely thought that Chelsea would reach a level of fee where that Sunderland would sell, because I think Xhaka wanted this move at points. I think that's very, very clear. Xavi Alonso wanted this move to come through. I think it's a massive blow for Xavi Alonso, really, really big blow for him during his early days at Chelsea. We maintained throughout this that this was going to be interesting from their perspective, because if the manager didn't get what he really wanted, and if Chelsea didn't indulge him with this transfer, then does that mean that his project's sort of dead in the water already? It's taken a massive, massive hit. I genuinely thought, Connor, that Chelsea were going to get to a sort of 20 million, 25 million quid fee, and that this was going to go through. I thought it was going to go on for quite a while. I think there's an element of cynicism in these transfers when you're a journalist who's been covering them quite a long time. What I have to say is fair play to Sunderland's hierarchy, and I think this getting sorted fairly early on into the summer, hopefully now there can be a line drawn under it. Hopefully Granit Xhaka's head is set on staying at Sunderland. This doesn't resurface. Maybe he won't be fully relaxed about it until the transfer window is open, which is shut, which is quite a long time away. But I think this is real good news. Is there an element of sort of the relationship will be soured between Sunderland fans and Granit Xhaka? I don't necessarily think so. I think now this is all sorted, everybody can just get back to loving each other. I think there was a brief flirtation. It hasn't come. It's football. It happens. Let's just crack on. I think this is a huge boost to Sunderland, a big boost to Sunderland fans as well.
Yeah, I agree. And I think as well what's interesting is, I'll whack it. I mean, you might have put this on, but this is just the one that's on my screen. This is what's coming out all the time. The bottom line, the 33-year-old's relationship with the Sunderland fans played a big part in his decision. So we saw narrative control from Xhaka in the instance of, clearly it's his management that are talking to Fabrizio Romano when this story's happening. And I think we can already see how the PR is going to work from this point on. And I think it's quite obvious that what is going to happen is what I'd said the other week as to how to keep, the other day to keep this together, is Xhaka is going to come out with not necessarily a grovelling apology, but with an explanation that essentially says, the fans were the big part. The club showed that they wanted us. Chelsea, I was interested because of Alonso, but they didn't want me as much as Sunderland. I'm delighted to stay. And it was because everyone showed the desire to keep me here and I felt wanted. That is where this media spin's going.
Yeah, I think that's an entirely correct reading of it. I mean, the Well, our understanding is quite clear from sources around Sunderland. I mean, they are at pains to stress that their position remained unchanged, so they've been very strong here. Granit Xhaka was never available for a transfer at any valuation at any point, and Sunderland consistently communicated to Chelsea and the wider public that he wasn't for sale. Um, we cannot rewrite history here. Xhaka was initially attracted by the prospect of reuniting with Xavi Alonso. Sunderland sources acknowledge that. They acknowledge that the pair enjoyed a successful spell together at Bayer Leverkusen, and they acknowledge outright that the opportunity was explored by Granit Xhaka and Chelsea. But following discussions with the club, Xhaka has reaffirmed his commitment to Sunderland, and club sources now say that he wants to remain on Wearside with the fans to push the club into Europe. He's back on board with the club's long-term ambition, and Sunderland consider Xhaka a key figure both on and off the pitch, which is great news to everybody. And I think there is an element, Connor, I think you're right to say, of a bit of a charm offensive here. Let's try and get the fans back on board, which is understandable. I don't think it's going to take much to get the fans back on board. You know, we've commentated a lot on this over the last week or so. I'm minded to just let's forget this very quickly. It's not going to be helpful to keep this sort of dragging on in our minds. There was a brief flirtation. It's done. It's over with. I thought he was going to leave. I'm pleasantly surprised. Let's just get on with starting to enjoy the prospect of Europe again, because I think this had really booted that out of our minds, hadn't it, Connor? We weren't talking about Europe as much. It was in passing. Well, we've got more games. We're going to have to replace Granit Xhaka. We can be excited again, and that's class. And I'm really, really pleased that this is a satisfactory ending.
Yeah, I agree, and I think this is an ending. You know, we I think there'll be some elements of the fan. I mean, you mentioned there the deadline's 2 months away, but I think this is a line getting drawn under this. Like fundamentally, Xhaka, I think, has probably thought, right, this needs to be done before pre-season. This is probably distracting us with Switzerland at the World Cup. I am probably not being a good teammate because of all this news story. So I would guess that he's like, look, if it's not happening, if Chelsea aren't going to hit that price, if they're not going to meet Sunderland's asking price, then let's just nip it in the bud. And I think we did see a story when this first broke that they wanted it sort of an understanding on it within 48 hours, 48, 72 hours. So the fact is that we're now sitting a week later and we've still not found a resolution to this. So he's probably thought, well, do you know what? They probably don't want me that much, which comes back to how it'll be sped in PR, whether it's true or not. But it's clearly, I think, from Xhaka's side, he did not want a long-term transfer saga. He wanted to go into his last few seasons, 2 seasons maybe, of playing and not have those distractions over him, because it had an opportunity to derail his season. If he wasn't going to move to a deadline day, it had real ramifications for him as a player heading into the next campaign.
I think we also have to say, because we have criticised Granit Xhaka's camp and we've criticised Granit Xhaka a fair amount over the past week. I think that criticism has been justified, but I also think we now need to say, okay, fair play for drawing a line under this. I think his actions, perhaps today and in the past 24 hours, have actually re-underlined the fact that he is quite a principled leader and quite a principled man. That's not me just flip-flopping because he now sort of wants to stay, but the fact that he wants to draw a line under this quite quickly, the fact that beyond initially making it known to Chelsea that he wanted to leave and come to their football club in that mad sort of Saturday night, beyond that, he hasn't kicked up a fuss. He hasn't handed in a transfer request. He hasn't really dug his heels in and said that he absolutely wants to leave and really, really tried to sort of harm Sunderland on the way out. So I think he does deserve some credit for that, and I think we should absolutely say. What I will say and what I can reveal is that this news, this bombshell news today, comes as a big surprise to Chelsea. Chelsea were not expecting this, and it is news to them. So I find that quite interesting that they're sort of behind on this. Clearly, Sunderland have swooped and have managed to persuade Granit Xhaka. The deal's not getting done at any level of fee. I would imagine they've told Chelsea that he's not for sale, but I imagine Chelsea know that there's a fee that they could get to where Sunderland would have to consider. Chelsea clearly aren't prepared to get to that fee. Whatever happens, Sunderland know this. Sunderland have told Granit Xhaka this. So it's best for all parties to just crack on and get on with everything. And I think, again, I'll reiterate, fair play for Granit Xhaka for drawing a line under this very quickly, and brilliant by the club as well, because this had the potential to be a real transfer shitstorm. Apologies for swearing on the stream if there are any children, but it did have the potential to derail and change the optics of a summer, because if Granit Xhaka goes and then you struggle to get players in, you maybe lose one or two more, and the summer doesn't pan out the way you wanted, it could have sent a real negative feeling into the start of what is hopefully going to be another great season with Europe on the cards. So I think what we've said from the beginning has turned out to be true. I got this story wrong in a sense that I genuinely thought that he was going to go. I just thought big clubs, or big six clubs, quote unquote, they'll pay what he want. I always maintained that I thought Chelsea's hierarchy was a bit dumb and cluttered, and that could potentially derail it, and so it's proven to be. But I think we've been right in what we say, that Sunderland are quite a strong football club, quite a strong operation. They held all the cards, they stood firm, they didn't engage in the noise, and this has been the outcome. And clear communication from them to Xhaka's camp. I think bravo, Florent Gasolfi, Kira Louis-Dreyfus, the new guy who's come in from Juventus, who deals with outgoings. I think this is a real indication and a real strong display of Sunderland's strength, because they've managed to resist, Chelsea, which is, I know Chelsea aren't operating from a massive position of strength, but Xabi Alonso, world champions, chances of trophy, London, probably higher wages, all of this sort of stuff. So I say bravo. I think they've done extremely well on this, Sunderland.
Yeah, I mean, Thomas Gerrard here, people in any walk of life get job offers, consider them, and decide to stay in their current employment, which, if you think about it in that sort of simple terms, then that is what happens in life fundamentally. If you got offered a job somewhere, James, and you spoke to me about it for a week, and like, oh, humming and hawing about it, it's just because you're not a footballer. It wouldn't be public knowledge. I wouldn't be like, sources are telling me James is thinking about joining the Chronicle to cover Newcastle.
You could do that, but I don't think anybody would be very interested.
No, I don't think so. But it is true, though. That is what happens. I think as well, it's really important, the message that this sends, because we've got a dressing room full of ambitious young players. We've got players like Brian Brobby, who we know will have interest. We've got Noah Siddiqui, Robin Roos. You can go through all of them. And I think that the fact that Xhaka, they've kept Xhaka, what message does that send to the rest of the dressing room? As if to be like, do you know what? Our leader has been convinced to stay, and let's continue on in that journey. He's committed. He's the one that followed us last season. So therefore, we should commit to that. And I think this sends a really strong message to players we're potentially signing, but also everyone else in the dressing room. And also, just before we go on, James is not joining the Chronicle. Do not run that story.
You're going to get me into big trouble over here. I know loads of people at the Chronicle, and they're all bloody good guys. I'm not going to the Chronicle. I'm just throwing it out there. Connor's he's been a little tinker here, but yeah, respect to the Chronicle.
Anyway, go on. We were talking about what message does this send to players that are still at Sunderland, and also players who are potentially going to sign?
Well, I think it's a very, very good point that you raise, and it's something that we have touched on. Granit Xhaka coming to Sunderland in the first place was a massive, massive endorsement of the project. It felt special because here is a guy that understands what Sunderland can be. Now, it was really hurtful that he wanted to go, and a bit of a black mark on the project. Oh, are we really that ambitious? Are the fans really that good? We can't keep holding Granit Xhaka. Is there a food chain? Now, this is now the other way. We can peacock again. We can flex our muscles. This is an ambitious project. A week is a long time in football, and you can sort of go through these roller coasters of emotions and all of this sort of stuff. But it allows us to again say that, we're in Europe, we've got this coming down the pipeline, we are ambitious, we have money in the bank, there's a lot going for the club. Granit Xhaka is staying, and it's almost like a re-endorsement of the project, which, to be fair, I don't think he ever really stopped believing in, but his head was quite clearly turned by what Chelsea could offer and the allure of Xabi Alonso, and perhaps living back in London, and maybe he's one more crack at a modern-day successful club. I wouldn't say bigger club than Sunderland, because I don't believe Chelsea are a bigger club than Sunderland, but in the modern day, they've absolutely been more successful. So it is a ringing endorsement of what we are building here at Sunderland. I do think that translates through to the players as well, because they're going to want to see him stay. He's a talismanic leader. Everybody wants to see him stay from top to bottom, and I think it's going to be a huge boost to the playing staff. You know, it sends signals out to new signings as well. Granit Xhaka is still going to be here. We've held off Chelsea. You know, Sunderland's name, it gets around a lot at the moment in world football, and bizarrely and almost uncomfortably so for us people who are used to the norm or the perceived norm, it's usually quite positive, which is a departure from how I grew up with Sunderland, to be honest. And I think this is a very positive end to a very annoying news story for Sunderland, but they've handled it well. And I think the wider implications of that in terms of the playing squad, which you aptly mention, and the fan base, the optics around football, which all matters, I think it's hugely beneficial and important.
Yeah. I talked about potentially a new contract. Do you think that is potential? Do you think there's a world where Sunderland go, do you know what, for everything you did last season, let's really just get this on pen and paper. When you get back in, we'll do a new contract. You can commit. And, you know, it's basically just giving them that extra year, which was an optional extension, maybe a little bit of a pay rise. But I feel like that is the right message. I know some people will say that he doesn't deserve it because, you know, he's not showed his loyalty, But I think Granit Xhaka has shown his value to Sunderland to be worth more than the £120,000 a week. I know it's a crazy amount of money. God, I mean, I wish I was on that money a year. I'd take that. I'd take half of that a year. So the fact is, though, is that he has shown in terms of football and how much revenue is in football that he is worth to Sunderland more than that level of money. So I think a new contract, I'm for it. I think it makes a lot of sense. And that really draws a line under the whole thing.
I haven't heard of a new contract in the offing just yet, but I think you're right to point out that logic would dictate that something is going to happen on that front. I mean, I have not been offered any roles by the Chronicle, as you mentioned earlier, but when I have been,
there's a lot of comments about this.
when I have been offered roles previously, I have ended up with more money. That's just what happens in life and in business, as one of the comments from one of the viewers mentioned earlier. Like, these things do happen in the workplace, and generally, if you're going to stay and there's interest from elsewhere, you end up with more money, or more favourable terms, or a more flexible working system, or less hours or something. I don't think Granit Xhaka is going to end up with less hours at Sunderland or less games. So you would imagine that there might be some more money down the line. New contract, could it be? I don't know. Maybe he'll negotiate on that. Maybe other promises have been made to him about his post-playing career, all of that sort of stuff. So, as I say, I don't know anything directly about that, but gut feeling would be that if Chelsea were going to offer more money, Sunderland, to keep Granit Xhaka happy, will probably have to get up to that at some point. And I suppose we assume Chelsea are offering more money. You'd probably be 99% certain on that. But again, Chelsea's hierarchy are that cluttered that were they actually offering that much more money? Who knows? Who knows all of the answers? I would assume so, but with Chelsea, you can't rule anything out.
I'm going to whack this on. Taff always puts this grief curve on with me, especially when we talk about the Xhaka. So I was in, this is slightly different, but I was definitely in shock and denial and anger. And now, I'm no longer in grief.
No, you're off the other side.
Yeah, like, it's like somebody's come back alive.
I think we were all in that acceptance stage, though, weren't we? Like, I wasn't saying that I thought Granit Xhaka was going to leave for nothing. It was just that is usually the direction of these big transfers, and the mood music from Xhaka's camp was that this was probably going to happen. So the fact that Chelsea haven't been able to get it over the line is a big surprise to me, to be honest. But very welcome. I'm happy to be wrong on this. Very happy.
Yeah, same. I mean, I think when I was talking to Taff about this, I was like, fundamentally, if Chelsea don't meet the asking price, then how does he leave? And I think there just was the feeling that they would meet the asking price. And I think they've dragged their heels on it so much, thinking they could get a lower price, that Xhaka's probably just went, you know what, I'm not letting my reputation go through the toilet. Because it has. Generally, people in football have not been in favour of this move. Generally, and people have thought that the behaviour has not been correct. So I think for him, he went through a bit of a PR storm, which essentially has come from the fact that Chelsea have been unwilling to actually pay what he's worth.
I think as well is that when Xhaka spoke, the middle of the night after Switzerland's win in the World Cup last 32, and those quotes surfaced online. I don't know if you caught this, Connor, but Granit Xhaka had actually started to like some of the posts on Instagram, just who that were relaying his quotes verbatim. That the posts weren't saying anything about him other than relaying his quotes. So he's clearly online. He's clearly seen some of this. He's probably clearly seen some of the comments. It's probably a good reminder to not go too harshly on players as well. Like I've seen Granit Xhaka called some bad things over the past couple of days, and I always stop short of that line because I just don't think it's fair. I think it's absolutely fair to criticise, and we've criticised, and I think I still wouldn't change any of my criticisms of him. The outcome doesn't change how I felt at the time and the direction of travel at the time. I'm happy to give him credit now for the mother of all U-turns, absolutely. But I think these football players are terminally online, and I think he's probably seen the PR storm that this has caused among Sunderland fans. And it wouldn't surprise me if fan power has played a little bit of a part in this, and he's actually taken a step back and thought, do you know what? Like, they're a good bunch, these, for the most part. The ones not calling us snakes and rats, and I'm onto a good thing. And these people are passionate, and perhaps it has been a little bit of a reminder that, yeah, I do actually want to be here, and I would like to get this sorted. And you know, thank God for that, because I think it would have been a huge blow for Granit Xhaka to leave Sunderland. I really do. How do you go about replacing that? It would have been very difficult.
It would have been. I wonder if people, within the club, i.e., characters like Luke O'Nien, Nordi Mukiele, the people we know he's close with, if they've been in touch, saying like, you're meant to be like the leader, we're meant to do this European trip together. I mean, fundamentally, next season, because of the relationship we know that they have in the dressing room, it was going to be a special season for them. Everything they achieved this past campaign, and they were going to do it together, travel Europe and do all these amazing things. I can imagine from his side, maybe he did need a reminder. He's been away from the group for a month. And that bond, when you're away for a month, maybe the bond it drifted away and stuff, and maybe it's just having those reminders. So I imagine there's been a lot of people within Sunderland that have been hammering his phone, sending him videos of like, oh, like this is what happened last season. Remember when you scored against, Everton and stuff? That will happen though, won't it? That the players will be in touch with him, sort of encouraging him to stay.
I mean, I would imagine so. I wouldn't put it past Luke O'Nien at all, to be honest. But I think, yeah. Just to go back to my previous point, like I do think legacy must play an important part in players thinking, and I do wonder if he's just thought like, I'm gonna be a legend here. Actually, like I think personally, even with this, right, if he continues on the way he is at Sunderland, and Sunderland continue to grow and achieve, and he keeps his levels up on the field, like he's a Niall Quinn in the making. I really believe that. That's very, very high praise coming from me, because I don't believe that, well, there's not really a greater modern day legend than Niall Quinn. You're looking at the 73 lads, Jimmy Montgomery, Bobby Kerr, Niall Quinn obviously coming after them. I would throw Bob Murray in there as well. But in terms of since he joined the club, there's no greater person than Niall Quinn. You could perhaps argue Kevin Phillips a little bit as well. I think Granit Xhaka, for what he's achieved, could be near in that sort of hero status. I think you'd have to throw Luke O'Nien in there as well, double promotion winner, and then European qualification. Maybe he's Trey Hume, but in terms of talismanic figures, like that's the road he's on. And this has been a little bit of a blip and a little bit of a fall, but hopefully we can get back to that. And I prefer loving Granit Xhaka. I really do. I prefer. I don't like to be in a disagreement with him. Don't like to be thinking bad things and talking poorly about him and speculating. I much prefer him being in Sunderland, feeling like a massive club.
Yeah. I'm just feeling.
I don't know what we're going to talk about. I don't know what we're going to talk about for the next days. This has come at a good time. If this had come when you're on holiday next week, it
would have been a nightmare. No, I don't know what else.
These things always happen on my day off as well. The big news always breaks on my day off. You absolutely guarantee it. This news broke when I was off on the Saturday. It broke, and then I'm off on the Friday at the day, and it's broke as well. Luckily, Phil Smith's been around to sort everything out today, which has been brilliant. But on the Saturday, there was nobody at work and everybody was out, so I had to jump on. And so I'm still annoyed at Granit for this all breaking on that Saturday.
Do you want to see something very cool? But to end,
go on, man.
Club have just tweeted that.
Nice.
So if anybody wants confirmation that Granit Xhaka is staying at Sunderland and that this is not just media talk. This right here is the perfect way to end this 45-minute live stream in which we've had around 700 people watching. Thank you. The most watched live stream we've had on this show. The most watched half Disco Pants podcast because you did show up late. This here, though, this is the confirmation that we need. This club have basically here said, we've got Granit Xhaka. He's staying. The elephant has been addressed, as Jay has put here.
Happy days.
It is happy days. Right, James, enjoy your weekend. I'm sure you will now. I am away, but I'm still going to be making videos because I am a content creator and it never ends. So I'll still be making videos over the weekend. We did a video earlier, literally at about 4 o'clock we did a video, 3 o'clock, whatever time it was. And I'm going to go back and edit that.
You may as well just throw that in the bin.
No, I think we could leave the 15 minutes we did on Eliza Mayenda. So that'll still go out. Yep. But it's the last 10 where
just
we
release
talk
the whole
about
thing just for a bit of crack because we were fucking horrendously
wrong. You were. I actually said in the day he was definitely staying.
Your reading of his quote was probably actually more accurate than mine.
It was, to be fair.
Which I'm happy to admit.
Yeah, I got that one right. There we are. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Like, hype the video, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Appreciate the support on the channel. There'll be loads of videos still coming out, even though I will not be going live. And enjoy your weekend. As Rory would say, enjoy the 3 points. But enjoy your weekend with Granit Xhaka. Still a Sunderland player and still going to be a Sunderland player, hopefully for the rest of the season.